Hi, I'm Judith Etzel. I'm a reporter for the Derrick and the News Herald newspapers. Among the beats I cover is the oil and gas industry. And this area has a fascinating history on that. This is where it all started. We invented an entire industry here. No one knew how to do this until people ended up in the hills of Venango County, tried to figure out how to take that stuff, put it in a pipeline, and send it to a market.
You know, this is a key location both for the history of Oil City and the history of the Oil Creek region, because right around this spot is where most of the action occurred. Oil City actually started here. This was Oil City. This was a borough of Oil City at one time. The oil that got here came from all the production wells that existed between here and Titusville. If you would look at pictures dating back to 1860s and 1870s, you would see nothing but oil wells and production equipment along this whole valley.
I'm Augie Holtz. I'm a volunteer at Drake Well, and I more or less look after the clinic. We pump it about every other month. It was drilled in 1861. It's been produced ever since.
McClintock number 1 was originally called the Colby Well, and when it came in 1861, it produced 175 barrels a day. At this point, the way we're pumping it, we're lucky to get 30 barrels a year. Hamilton McClintock, who owned this farm, settled it in the early 1800s. Because the farm is adjacent to Oil Creek, there were always naturally occurring oil seeps in this area, and the Native Americans who harvested here and used it for medicine taught the early settlers how to harvest it, and that's what Mr. McClintock did.
This is the birthplace of the American petroleum industry. This is a replica of Drake's engine house in Derrick, and the noise that you hear is the sound of a steam engine, which was located here in the engine house, which operated the string of drilling tools that rose up and down in the Derrick and pounded a hole in the ground to 69 feet, which is where Drake struck oil. This is just how lucky Drake was. If Drake had drilled just a little bit further in one direction or the other, he would not have struck oil. Drake did not discover oil. Human beings have been living here for over 6,000 years. The Native Americans knew about petroleum because the oil would rise to the surface naturally on the water. The French named Oil Creek because of petroleum. The Native Americans realized that if you dug pits, then the oil would rise to the surface of the water. Native Americans gathered the oil to use as medicine. It was used as a salve, as well as other medicinal uses, as well as for religious ceremonies and waterproofing.
And Keystone Star, Penango Briggs, Organic and Farrell. Petroleum, St. Nicholas, Corn Planter, New Creek Vein. Sure, 'tis no wonder many have oil on the brain. Stops, car, stops, up, then on the way. Everybody's troubled with oil on the brain.
I don't know how you'd work this in, but you're looking down the river here, and now you got to remember one thing. I told you that the
the shippers all built their piers and their crude long warehouses here, and they stored the oil and then they would take it down. And they made a lot of money, there's no question about it. They took tremendous risks. Several times, ice formed in this part of the river, and that ice would let go, and it would come down, come across the mouth of the river, and completely wipe out all of those piers, all of those warehouses, and all that crude oil, which just went in the river, and it was lost. They had several fires over here, which wiped everything out. So this was not just if you had enough money and you could buy the crude up the creek real cheap and then send it to Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, an opportunity to make a tremendous amount of money. It wasn't all that easy. You had to admire these guys. It was a rough time. This was mud. There wasn't anything here. This was mud. And they made an industry out of it. I have nothing but the highest admiration for them.
My name is Jan Beatner. I'm president of the Oil City Civic Center Incorporated. We're in the historic National Transit Building. It is on the National Register. And it was built in 1890 by John D. Rockefeller to house Standard Oil. And at one time, this building was responsible for the transportation of over 80% of the world's oil.
Huber, and a third-generation oil producer. This is an oil well supply power. It's got 17 wells on it. And it's been here since 1906. Right at this moment, we're not running a gas engine, but this gas engine is still in there. My dad used to bring me over here in a basket when I was a baby. I kind of grew up with it. My granddad started the lease in 1906, so we'll be here 100 years this year. I appreciate you documenting me on your film.